Okay, now that we have key members in the room, we can call to order the Madison Common Council Executive Committee meeting of February 10th, 2026. Staff, please call the roll.
President Vitiver?
Here.
President Vitiver is here. Vice President Govindarajan? Here. Vice President Govindarajan is here. Alder Ugair? Here. Alder Ugair is here. Alder Madison?
Here.
Alder Madison is here. Alder Matthews?
She's literally walking in the door.
All right, I'll come back to Alder Matthews. Alder Lankella?
Here.
Alder Lankella is here. Alder Tischler?
I'm here.
Alder Tischler is here. Alder Figueroa Cole?
Here.
Alder Figueroa Cole is here. And Alder Matthews is here. We have quorum.
Fantastic. All right, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the January 13th, 2026 meeting of CCEC. Vice President Govindarajan, do we have a motion on the minutes? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, is there any objection to recording a unanimous vote approving the minutes? Seeing none, we will record a unanimous vote to, what?
She's got Alder Figueroa Cole has her hand up.
Oh, Alder Figueroa Cole, go ahead. Like I don't actually see her on my screen anymore.
Did she drop off? Okay. She might have some technical issue because I. What's the hand you see?
Oh, no, I see her now.
Oh, there she is.
Alder Figueroa Cole, do you have a? Oh, her screen froze.
Oh, darn it.
Oh, and now she's dropped. Okay, well, so here's my question. As an aside, if she has concerns about the minutes, can those be dealt with after the fact? Alder Figueroa Cole, you're back on. Did you have concerns about the minutes?
Am I voting and voting or alternate?
Oh, you're alternate.
Okay, so my hand was not for voting, not to second question.
Sorry, say that again.
My hand was up to ask, not to second the vote.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, thank you. All right. So sounds like there's no objections to the minutes, so we will record a unanimous vote to approve the minutes from January 13th. All right, next on the agenda is public comment. Do we have any registered speakers?
We have no registered speakers on number 1. We have one registered on the number is sorry.
Item 5.
On 5 but opposed, not wishing to speak.
Okay, fantastic. We move on to disclosures or recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals? Seeing none, we will move on to the first item on the agenda. Alrighty, item 2, Legistar 91437, repealing section 9.12, repealing and recreating section 33.17 to combine the Vending Oversight Committee and Economic Development Committee into the new Business and Economic Resources Committee and updating references throughout the Madison General Ordinances. Should this be taken together with item 3? Should these be taken together? Yes. So we will take these two items together, 2 and 3. Item 3 is Legistar 91451, amending the regulations governing vending on the State Street Mall Capitol Concourse and regulations governing vending in high-density vending areas to replace references to the Vending Oversight Committee and MGO 9.12 with the Business and Economic Resources Committee and MGO 33.17 to coincide with the ordinance merging the VOC and EDC into the BERC. On this item, can I get a motion? Or we're going to take these two items together. Can I get a motion? Thank you. And questions for staff? This is where I have to look where everything is. Seems like there's no questions for staff. Is there any discussion among members? Obviously, this all came from TFOG's recommendation to reduce boards, committees, and commissions. All right, seeing none, is there any objection to record a unanimous vote in favor of items 2 and 3? Seeing none, we will record that as a unanimous vote. All right, item 4, Council Chief of Staff Annual Performance Evaluation Tool and Process, Legistar 91351. Alder Govindarajan, you are making the motion on this, I believe.
Motion to authorize the council president to proceed with administrating the evaluation of the chief of staff by CCEC.
Is there a second? Fantastic. All right. Questions, I think they would be for myself and for our chief of staff. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Any questions? We discussed this last time and made some modifications, including adding a stop, start, continue to the evaluation tool itself, and clarified that HR would be sort of running the survey through their normal process. And I believe we have an opportunity to allow people to put their district number in if they so choose. So it will be the person's choice to be anonymous or not as they're giving the evaluation. Are there other elements to it that changed since last time we had the conversation?
I think those were the main things. I might have changed the wording slightly in the instructions to sort of reflect the stop, start, and continue. And yeah, and there's a timeline attached also for 2026 is attached to this item. So you can get a sense of what we're aiming for and, keep it, be ready for it when it comes.
All right. Any questions? Any discussion? All right. Seeing none, is there any objection to a unanimous? Oh, okay. Sorry. I can't even see who just raised their hand. Alder Duncan, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I was not at the meeting last time with this. Is this, I guess, a normal process for individuals? Like, why would we be the ones reviewing the chief of staff instead of HR and just a normal process for a city employee?
So the chief of staff reports to the CCEC. That is the actual foundational ordinance. I don't know if it's an ordinance or if it's
an ordinance.
It is an ordinance. The structure of the actual position. So when I came in, I identified that there was no annual performance evaluation structure for the chief of staff. And I worked with Director of HR, Erin Hilson, to develop something that was based on the library director and the independent monitor, because those are both similarly structured in that they are overseen by external bodies, unlike other members of staff.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, is there any objection to a unanimous vote in favor of adopting this evaluation tool? Seeing none, we shall adopt it. All right, item 5, we are finally getting to our future agenda items list. And this is Legistar 91863, reducing the size of the Common Council. So this is a discussion item. We will not be taking any votes. It is really a space to open for discussion amongst the crew. And Isaac very helpfully prepared for us a memo that describes the proposal to reduce the council from an even number of 20 people to an odd number of 15 people. And you can understand why an odd number in and of itself would be beneficial, because then we don't have ties that would have to be broken by the mayor. But it would also wind up being a vehicle to increasing alder pay, which has been a subject that we've talked about for several years on council, without actually increasing the budget for council. So I open the floor for discussion. All right, Alder Garrett, go ahead.
Thank you, President. I was wondering if there is someone who can give a little background to the original study that apparently suggested a smaller council, and I believe perhaps of 10 alders, just all of the reasoning. I came on just at a time when we were considering raising everyone's pay. But that wasn't about, at that time at least, wasn't about reducing the size. But appreciate some insight into the original logic.
All right, I'm wondering if Isaac would like to take this? And if not, Karen will take it.
I think, Karen, you may be best for this one, since you were around for most of the TFOGs, unless you would like me to kind of give some of it.
I can answer at least that part of the question, and then if there's more, questions about the technical parts of the memo, then I'll probably send it back to you. So yeah, that's
Great.
correct. So TFOGs originally, and Isaac, again, correct me if you were looking at this, so correct me if I'm wrong. The TFOG's final report recommended a 10 alder council full-time with a wage that they determined to be, I think at the time it was something around $62,000 a year. It was like an idea. They had tried to come up with a wage that would allow someone to do this to be an alder as a job. Like they wouldn't, have to have another job in addition to being an alder. And yeah, so it was packaged together like that. And as the memo points out, there was an advisory referendum that had packaged the question. So I guess, and Isaac, you can let me know if you think it's fair to say that looking at the referendum language, we don't exactly know what part, if all, like what people had a reaction to the proposal, but I don't know that we can say, oh, it was because it was 10, because it was full-time, because it was, because of the way that the question was packaged. I'm not 100%, I wouldn't feel comfortable sort of guessing which one of those things bothered people, but clearly they had an opinion. So I don't know if that is helpful.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. To go back, your impression was that part of the recommendation was to provide an income that would support full-time work.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's come up multiple times is the challenge in having a diverse council, because if you're not someone who can do this job on top of something else or are already retired, and you really need it as income, it's just not feasible. So that was I believe, and I don't know if Attorney Haas has he's here too, has more background, but that's my understanding.
Okay. With that information now, when we get to discussion, then I can comment.
We're kind of like,
Okay.
this is free flowing because it's not a vote item. It's really just a discussion item. So if you want to
If
say
want
something,
to
ask
continue
questions, go
to
right ahead.
Babble on. Okay. A couple of things, and I did some additional calculations. So the example given wasn't 10, it was 15.
Correct.
And for the 13 alders, other than the officers, that generated, to keep within the same budget, which is understandable goal in terms of past comments when we considered back in 2024 just increasing the budget. So that generated a salary of $22,207. So that made me think, okay, what kind of income do you need in the city of Madison in order to be able to consider devoting full time to it? And so I looked at Well, what did it look like if we went to that original recommendation? Okay, of 10, using the same approach to the officers' salaries, that meant that the 8 non-officer alders would have a salary of $33,310. So then I asked,
We stayed in the same budget. So you're saying if we stayed in
Within the
the
same budget.
parameters, but went down to
Correct.
10,
correct. Now, things don't round exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So then I said, well, okay, what if we assumed that, and this wouldn't be for everybody, but what if we assumed that you could do this job if you made the area median income of $76,983 this past year? That would let you have a common council of 5 people. So depending on where we think that we attract a more diverse group, that gives us some sense of where to go, or we've got to think very differently about the budget. The other thing I wanted to look at in doing that was the helpful thing in the example that was given, that currently we each have somewhat over 14,000 residents. Going to 15, that would go up to 19,000. Going to the original 10, that would be 28,500. And if you wanted to pay the average median or area median, that would be 57,000 people, which at some point,
you lost me there.
no, I just said, how many people per older? How many residents?
So if you went to 5 alders
That would be 57,060 residents.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm tracking with you.
So at some point in time there, it seems to me that kind of like our friends who visited us from Lexington, each alder would need their own staff support person, not to disenfranchise a large number of people to be able to do the job. Coming here tonight, the one thing that it occurred to me that I did not look at, which also I think probably is of some importance, is should have looked at what does that mean as we go up as to how many committee, board, or commission member meetings each alder has to attend. And it gets to be a lot. So those are just some thoughts on looking at what we're trying to do with this and what the ramifications are.
Yep.
Thank you, President.
I should just point out the 15 number came from Milwaukee. They have 15, but they are full-time, just to be clear. So, but that's where
So a different budget.
a different budget, right? But the point is that they're a city roughly double our size, and they have 15. So anyway, I'm going to Alder Matthews, then Alder Govindarajan, and then Alder Duncan. Alder Matthews.
Thank you. I wanted to say for this proposal, I don't know that it is worthwhile for us. As someone with a little bit of an on the more active side district, this looks like it would be taking on, right, a good amount more work potentially with the additional constituents, and the additional money isn't really enough for, this being full-time certainly, but it's not really even enough, I think, to like offset going down to part-time at another job necessarily. And I know not every district is like the same level of activity, but I think ideally we would want all the districts to be very active. And, there wouldn't really be any reasonable way of like cutting the districts so it's somewhat fair all around. I would say it also kind of potentially, going down to maybe 5 is maybe somewhat risky in that, different alders have a different amount that they do put in to things. And so if you only have 5 and not everyone is, putting in a lot of work, it might, there would be a while before that could be changed by the constituents. And then the only other thing that I want to mention really quick, though not totally relevant, is that I do think going to fully full-time, while I understand that's probably something that will eventually have to happen, I do think that that would also probably make certain people not be able to be an alder. I wouldn't have, now that I'm already in, maybe I would consider quitting my full-time job to do this full-time if I could do that. But I never would have made that choice to run and to try to join. Whereas even a more middling income that maybe wouldn't encourage people to be a career alder, but would encourage, would still be a relatively livable income, or an income that could be substituted with, much lower scale part-time work. In my mind, seems like it would be the most accessible to folks, but I do understand that might never be, just because I couldn't be an alder doesn't mean that it's not the right choice to go full-time, but I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to, wait, Alder Govindarajan, what? Oh, okay, Alder Duncan and then Alder Lankella. Okay.
Thank you, President. I struggle with this, looking at this going to the voters not even 5 years ago. And at that point in time, the voters were pretty strong with the fact that they wanted to remain the same at 20 alders, to now 5 years later or 6 years later, once we get to a point of presenting something. I don't think much has changed. I can say that with this being a part-time position, a lot of alders already struggle with the number of constituents that they currently represent. So to bring on even additional constituents where it still will be a part-time job, I think there is going to be that struggle. And I don't think it's really fair for the constituents to not have an alder who they're able to get a hold of and be able to have conversations with. And having the 20, even though it's the route that we're wanting to potentially go adds only 5,000 more or something, that still is a lot more individuals to try to navigate. And I don't think for the increased pay that it's going to really be beneficial to our residents. So I would think that we would want to stay where we are currently with the 20, unless there's a clear reasoning that we would want to present this to voters again, to try to change our current structure.
All right, Alder Lankella and then Alder Govindarajan.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I totally agree with Alder Duncan, what he was saying. That's what I was going to say, mainly about City of Madison is the fastest growing in the Wisconsin. So these numbers of people that we're going to be support is not going to go down, right? And you're trying to reduce the districts, actually is going to, I don't know, we got to see the numbers on that, right? So with the growth perspective of how many we will be in next 5, 6 years, 10 years, right? So already, I don't know about other, I think definitely some alders already mentioned, we get so many emails and everybody expects the response really quickly and without any staff supporting, right? So we might need additional staff support as well along with it. So I don't know what we will be saving by doing, reducing the numbers, except the salary hike. I don't see any other benefits for this one. And also expertise and diversity, I would say it'll be a lot more diversity from my perspective where I see it. I would not be able to be a council member if I have to be doing this one full time, because I like to see involved in the community as the employment from community events that I part of the boards that I sit on, several community boards, several state boards, and employment, all of that. I would not be able to do any of those if it'll be full time as well, right? So we will lose a lot of diversity because of that one. Expertise that they can bring from other agencies while they're working. Like an example, DNR. Every council that I'm presently in with my civil engineering expertise are the DNR expertise that I have. If I have to quit that job, I cannot bring that expertise here too, right? So that's another disadvantage. I'll see that diversity of the people that they can participate in this, it will go along as well. So, and as Alder Duncan mentioned too, I see that overwhelmingly, I don't know what was the question was proposed to the public before, it's 70%. It's like 3/4 of the population said, keep it as is. And so I don't know if we wanted to spend, again, more time to ask that question anytime soon. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, and it just, I'll add one thing, which is that my recollection of the main concern of the public was creating career politicians as alders, and that it would be far more expensive to run campaigns because people would be doing it like for their full-time job, and that's sort of not what people wanted to see. And then just recognizing that reducing the size without taking it to full-time would make essentially each alder race more competitive. And so it's possible, and I'm not saying this, but it's possible the quality of the candidates would have to be higher because they would really have to be competing in that way. Alder Govindarajan, please go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, my position on this has kind of been clear when we discussed this before CCEC and leadership meetings as well. My biggest concern is going down from 20 alders will put at risk the existence of the student seat. Madison for decades, I think it's really cool. I think the fact that we have a student seat is really cool. I mean, obviously, I'm not a student currently, but in 2.5 months, there will be a student sitting here. And that's not really common in the state of Wisconsin or anywhere else in the country. It happens here or there, but it's rare. And I think it provides a perspective to the Madison Common Council that is much needed and should not be lost at any cost, especially because even though the city population is 250,000 something, there's about 50,000 students here. And that's relevant enough, I think, where we could keep at least 1/20th of the seats here being just for students. The second thing is I also do understand the argument that this would be a way to address the alder pay issue. I mean, when the issue came up in 2024, I was, I think, the lead sponsor on raising the wages to about 25,000, but I don't think this is a sustainable way of addressing that issue. The debate back then was that alder work demands too much. You have to do too much work, and there's not enough resources being given to us, both in terms of pay, but also staff time, emails, constituent work, community service, all of that. Like, we have too little resources to do our work. But this, if we do limit the size of council to 15 or 10 or whatever, it would give us a like a $5,000 raise, yes, but it will also expand how much work we would have to do by a multitude much higher than that. And I don't think that actually helps underrepresented communities get into this already inaccessible role. I think it might make it worse. And by that, I think by creating career politicians, the average age of council is going to increase. It's going to be much more white. Like, that's what would happen if something like this were to happen. And I understand this is a discussion and we're not voting on anything. But while I have 2.5 months left, I want to make it clear on the record. So, yeah, I also do generally think it's a little bit unwise for us to start these conversations again because 70% of the public voted to keep it the same just 3 years ago. I understand that debate and discussion is good and healthy, but I think if we were to put this back on a referendum this year or 5 years from now, I don't think it's going to be any less than 70%, maybe 60% if we're lucky, if we do a public campaign on it. But I just don't think that'll be the case. And if we do in the future actually move forward with this kind of discussion, it should not be 15 alders with that extra $5,000. It should be in a way that we set up the future council for success. If we are moving towards, and this would create career politicians, if we are moving towards that, we should set them up for success for the city's betterment. They should have 4-year terms. They should have staff similar to Milwaukee. The Milwaukee alders, they get paid about $80,000 a year. They have their own staff and they have their own offices. So if that's kind of where we're heading, we need to make sure we do it all, because otherwise it's not going to set up the future of council for success. Did not mean to make a speech, but 2.5 months, so whatever.
Alder Madison, go ahead.
Thank you. First, can you all hear me okay, just in case it's choppy?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so I was listening to you all, and I was like, oh my goodness, this sounds like a very privileged conversation to a degree. And when folks were talking about the number of folks who voted, I think you all said that 70% didn't support this, and one way or another. And I think Dane County is somewhere around 7%. I can't remember, or 7% Black. I can't remember what the actual city of Madison is. But I don't know that we're at a point about a full-time council. But what I do hear us saying is that we are not well resourced. And so even trying to sort of get a small, or not a small business, a chain business to remove their snow from the sidewalk incurs additional emails, additional time on an alder's behalf, for example, and working with constituents to address that kind of matter. You can easily eat up about 6 to 8 hours in your 20-hour work week just trying to ensure that a business removes snow promptly each time it snows, for example. So I do think if there was more support for example, instead of the alder having to follow the issue all the way through, not that we wouldn't still follow it, that someone else can kind of pitch in, as council staff do pitch in and help us periodically, but they're not expected to, do all the back and forth between constituents and staff and the business to get the snow removed, for example. So I do think that one thing I don't hear from us saying, I guess maybe I'm missing it or don't see it documented, is what exactly do we need in resources? Like, do we need more capacity? Do we need more staff? Do we need more technology tools? Like, I will always ask for project management tools, for example. So one thing it would be good to document, maybe over the next year, next 6 months, whatever the time frame is, what can alders use in order to do their jobs more effectively? The other thing I don't know that I've found or come across, or we haven't chatted about maybe, is what have cities around our size done? How have they shifted their councils as their population increase? Because Madison's population is increasing. I would imagine at the next census, there may be another, redraw of districts, for example. But how have other similar size cities and their local government shifted, or what did they do in order to accommodate how quickly or how their population grew? So I guess what would be really helpful, what I would love to hear, is what kind of resources do council members believe they need in order to be better effective at their job? And it's maybe where we're also advocating for more funding to support ourselves in doing our work. And what have similar sized cities done as their population grew? Like, how did they accommodate for more folks living in the city and demanding, interaction? What kind of engagement from their elected officials? So that's my 2 cents. I don't know that we're at a point where we can talk about adding or making council members full time, but I do think either it's a combination of increasing pay, increasing resources, and understanding what kind of resources we need. So that's all I got.
Those are excellent questions, Alder Madison, and I see Karen taking notes, and so we'll have to do a little bit more research, particularly I think on the growth question, because I do think we can look to see what other cities have done. I mean, all I can, each of us can speak to is our own experiences. And I would say, I think all of us feel like we're constantly pulled between our alder duties, our home duties, and if we're working, our work duties. And that's kind of the inherent challenge of doing this job. And it's also why a lot of people don't choose to do it, because it's really complicated to be able to try to fit it in your life. You know, I'll tell people with small children, oh gosh, you know, I didn't do this till my kids were in high school, and there's no way I could have done it when they were younger. No way. And obviously everybody's different and they could have a different perspective, but for me, it wouldn't have worked. So anyway, that's all I'm gonna say. Go ahead, Alder Govindarajan.
I forgot to include one thing. This is a little bit not on the topic of going to 15 alders, but as we deal with population growth, and this conversation will continue to come up over and over again, I think it's important to talk about the fact that eventually, even if we keep just 20 alders, we will need more resources. And I do think that it's going to be a staff split up between a couple alders or whatever it is. My day job is working in the Capitol as a staffer for a state representative. There are 60,000 constituents in our assembly district, and I swear to God, if it was even just 20,000 constituents, it would be the same amount of work, and this person would need a staffer. It is incredibly difficult to do what we do on the local level as alders, representing about 15,000 people, but as our city grows, it's going to be a problem that we need to address. And even by the end of this decade, I think District 16 is going to have about 21,000 people in their district because some annexation, whatever, you know, not my side of town. So I don't know what's going on there. Sorry, Sabrina. Yeah, I like constituent services should be the main part of this job. I think it is much more local, and it's the discussion of having staff is something I think we should discuss much more in the future than reducing the size of council. That's all for real. Thank you.
And I'll just remind us that several years ago, we talked about the 311 system and that was supposed to help us with the constituent services. And that has still not been launched. And because, you know, I'll be the first to say that we have a two-part job. It's constituent services and it's policy making. And I would argue that most of us have very little time for policy making because we have so much time spent in constituent services. And, you know, it takes a while to get things through policy. And it's hard to put that at the top unless there's like a critical issue that's coming up. So go ahead, Alder Madison.
Yep, and I'll be really quick. Just something that Alder Govindarajan said about the population growth in 16. Is it possible, just a note for Isaac, not to put any more on your plate, but getting some projections for our districts individually, or at minimum, like, you know, areas, like if you coupled a couple of districts together, for example?
Sure, I can add that and see what's possible there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alder Matthews.
I just thought of one other thing kind of with regard to having more constituents and just the constituent services piece in general is, as we do potentially, if we end up going down in alders and we have larger areas that we're representing, there are a lot of things that we have to know about to do good constituent services. So even if we shift it in such a way that the alders day-to-day isn't as much dealing with like developments or, projects and things of that nature, like we'll still have to know about them. So that's something to think about scaling when you're like busting out making a wider area that we would represent as well. Because I will say definitely, right, a lot of it is like snow and parking and things like that, but a lot of it is also, at least when there are a lot of projects and things, is what's happening with this? How is this going? What stage is this at? And so I have found that you kind of really have to be on top of those things as well as just kind of the regular stuff.
So what I'm really hearing is, A, we need more resources for us to be effective at our roles. And whether that's through 311 as an effective mechanism to deal with constituent issues so that is less of a burden for us, whether it's more pay, you know, depending on what way it goes, right? It's just that we need more resources. And secondly, we need to really develop a plan for how we're going to accommodate these roles as the city grows. And so those two things are pretty connected, but it sounds like that's really the path we need to go down, and it's not really going to be about what is the council's size per se. It's going to be about how do we best resource the council to effectively meet the needs of our growing constituency. Have I captured that? Attorney Haas, go ahead.
Thanks. I just want to throw out a few items just based on the conversation. I mean, the population growth may be uneven, but after the next census, that will be redistricted and evened out again. So even if you have one or some districts that grow larger, in the longer run, that will be evened out. There was the mention earlier about reducing the potential for tie votes. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of tie votes now, but even if you have 15 members, you could have 14 people voting. It's not going to eliminate completely the possibility of tie votes. You'd have to reconsider what is the quorum of the council going to be. There would be other downstream effects. Obviously, I think as people alluded to, the pay that assumes that the budget for all their salaries stays the same. That's a separate decision. And raising the salaries would not be automatic. You'd still have to change the ordinance to increase salaries, and that requires a supermajority vote. So there wouldn't be any guarantee. One would have to happen before the other. But because you reduce the size of the council doesn't automatically mean that salaries increase.
Okay, you got me on that one. Tell me more. I don't understand that.
Well, the salaries are set by ordinance. And so to increase the salaries, you have to change the ordinance.
Oh, thank you.
And that requires a supermajority vote.
Well, it would require a supermajority vote to change the size of council too,
It would
right?
require a referendum.
Well, right. So those things would have to go hand in hand.
No, because the salaries are decided by the council. The size of the council is decided by referendum.
Right, okay, gotcha. Okay, Alder Govindarajan, go ahead.
I did have something on my mind. Oh, something to add here. I think for your notes, Karen, I think it would be interesting for the future council to look into whether addressing these issues can be done by adding something to the horizon list in the next budget, such as maybe eventually we want to consider moving towards alders having staff or whatever. I think starting to put that stuff into writing as we get closer to the next census in 5 years might be helpful. That's all.
Alder Matthews, go ahead.
I just was wondering if you could maybe briefly speak on what the 311 is for anyone who might not know, including myself.
Sure. So 311 is supposed to be basically, so you're having a problem with snow, you call 311 and it gets the call to where it's supposed to be. So it's being taken care of by, some of it should be automated ideally, but would be taken care of by city staff. So, I mean, I'm just trying to think about, okay, so I had a quick query the other day. There's a street in my district that's going to be completely redone. And somebody was out working in this street right in front of a resident's driveway. And she's like, do you know what's going on? I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And she's like, well, I'm going to contact the project manager. And I'm like, that sounds great. Contact the project manager. And the project manager didn't even know that it was happening at the moment because it was a contractor doing a specific item. But like, did I need to be involved in that conversation at all? The answer is no, right? That could have been handled completely at the staff level. And if we had a 311 system that was effective at funneling questions like that to staff, that would take the burden off of us as alders, and we would do less constituent services because some of that would be able to be taken care of by staff. I don't know, Attorney Haas, do you have any idea where the 311 system is in process? I know it's still on IT's list, but I don't remember more than that. So, yeah, so this is the concept, is that. Call 311. Call 311, yeah. Like, so 211 is the social services for United Way, and obviously we know what 911 is for, but the idea is 311 is like, this is your city services central line kind of thing. Does that help?
Yeah, I think that definitely helps. How is it just kind of the more like real time aspect that makes it different from at least where you're able to do like the report a problem form?
Yeah, that it would be centralized, and so ideally so if you call 211 now, right, which is obviously run by United Way and for social services, you get a person and they take your information. And I don't know, Alder Madison, you might have more ideas about how 211 works. If they, do they like take your information and then call you back, or?
So it's basically like.
Wait, hold on, sorry.
Now. So basically, anyone can call. Let's just say you're looking for resources around housing. They basically act as a clearinghouse for local resources. So you give them a couple keywords, like maybe I have children, and maybe I'm unemployed, and so they'll do some searches to find the agencies that best match those needs. They do, I believe, do follow-up calls if something else becomes available, but they mostly are just trying to help you connect to what's available now. And then on the back end, they do work with agencies annually to kind of update their availability about what it is that they do provide. So there's less confusion year over year. So
Thank you. I knew you would have that information.
as a former board member.
Good. All right. Alder Lankella and then Alder Figueroa Cole.
So 311 sounds like a switchboard to me where the calls are getting redirected, right? So doesn't that already exist something for not like a voice, but at least for the public to submit an incident or something on the websites right now, or that gets redirected?
Yeah, the report a problem.
Report a problem,
and
right?
that,
So it's there.
my understanding of that is it generates emails. So it's like a shared email inbox. So it's still dependent on somebody being able to staff it and being able to respond in a timely fashion. So it's not a call. It's not a call.
Yeah, so reported incident right now, it is staffed right now. So it's the same.
And people
staff.
don't know about it and they don't use it. And I'm constantly telling them, and if you'd like to use the report a problem feature.
Even when we have 311, we will have the similar problem.
Probably.
Too. Not everybody knows about 311 as well, but yeah, just trying to see. It seems like half of the solution is already there. We just need that. So I don't know. What was the holdup on that 311? Is the funding or is
No, it's not fun. We've funded it. I think it's implementation. I think it's the tech part. Go ahead.
I'm loath to put anything on the record about it without Director Edgerton
Yeah.
here. And I see Alder Figueroa Cole with her hand up, and I have a feeling
That she knows more?
She knows a little
Go
bit
ahead.
about this, but I would also just say I'm happy to bring this topic back and check in with. I can ask Director Edgerton to give us a status
that'd be
update,
good.
even by email. But I would be really hesitant at this point to speak too much to where exactly it's at. I know there were some logistical issues, there were system structural issues that the consultant, they did a lot of work on this. They brought a consultant in, they did assessments. And so just my little caveat, but also.
All right, so that's another request that we would like an update from Director Edgerton on the status of 311. Go ahead, Alder Figueroa Cole, please. You're muted if,
Yeah, I moved to the phone and it's not my phone, so it's kind of crazy. But yes, so I agree we should get Sarah to give us an update and explain what 311 is. But on a nutshell, it's just like for those people that work in IT, it's just a tool to receive tickets kind of thing. Like people, today we do that by the reported problem. We get, if you ever go in that page, there's like hundreds of choices that people can make. You can report a problem for housing, you can report a problem for garbage, a lot of different choices. And depending which problem you select, it gets routed to an agency. So the reported problem, it's serves most of the city, including public health. Police has their own tool, so that is separate than the reported problem. But the idea will be to replace the reported problem with a tool that not only takes in the tickets or the inquiries, but also creates a database that that helps answer those questions in a repetitive way. Like so that's where the part of helping the elders comes from, because sometimes we get an issue that like I get issues often that are issues that I had gotten before. So staff helps me put those emails together, and I tend to save those emails. So when the issue comes back again, I can go back to that email, review it, and then apply it to whatever I am trying to support the constituent with. So this database will be also a database that will store all this information about common issues that come through. So that's kind of like the difference here. I don't know it's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be like necessarily someone answering the phone and things like that, but building a knowledge base takes time and to implement it. And once it's implemented, then it continues to get refreshed and built as it gets used. But that's in a nutshell what 311 is.
Thank you, Alder Figueroa Cole. Very helpful to have your knowledge with us today.
No problem. Thank you.
Alder Mayor.
But Sarah to come. Yep.
Did you have more?
No, nothing. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Alder Mayor, go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I saw this coming up on the agenda and I wanted to join and listen, and I thank you for having this conversation. I think it's really important. There's something wrong with the structure of the council, but I don't know what it is. So that's why this is a great conversation. But one thing I wanted to add, I was really curious about how the size of the council aligned with population over the years in Madison. And I looked up this data and I made a little spreadsheet. And it's curious because like when our country started the Constitution, we had something like 37,000 people per rep. So right now we're representing half the number of people that our original Congress people represented. But if we stayed at that ratio, we'd have thousands of people in the House of Representatives today. So going with more modern times, in 1940, the council was adjusted to 20. It had been 8 people before that. And if we were at that current representation ratio of 3,300 per alder, we'd be at 85 alders. I don't think we could fit them in the room.
Yeah, let's do that.
If we went to the last time it was changed in 2000, or actually changed in 1993, but the census data is from 2000, we'd have 27 alders representing the city. And I don't know that the answer is to increase the council and we get more representation, but just an idea of how it went in the past. And then just for fun, I'll tell you that the very first council had 12 people, 550 constituents per alder, which would be a luxury to have that. We probably know everyone's name in the district. So thank you again for having this conversation.
Oh, you just totally made me laugh. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Karen, you wanted to say something?
I did. I if you don't mind, from a staff perspective, because I've been here for a little more than 7 years now. And I've gotten to experience a number of iterations of this, some or more of the aspects of the conversation that have been raised today. And I think that, so I expect further robust conversation. So I'm excited about that because me, I like ideas. I'm an ideas person. I would like to say that there are some things I'd love to put in your sort of for food for thought as you're discussing these things like resources. We've found over the years that there can be some pretty significant philosophical differences between alders about what the job is. Between alders, what the job is, where the time should be best spent, where their colleagues' time is best spent, and what they would like to see in terms of what does it mean to be this elected official. So I want to put that out there for food for thought, that I think part of the reason it's been challenging to make large changes, or why it may feel like Alder Mayor said, something, but what, is because I think there are these fundamental differences that we need to kind of maybe put out there on the table to actually add them into the conversation, because the policy constituent services scale is weighted differently for each one of the present and former alders. There are trends, and you see some clusters, but it's not, y'all don't agree. Trust me. All right. And then another, so just thinking about that, because I think that's going to help. I think if we conceptually think about it, it will help explain, well, why are we struggling with these questions? And then I would also say that, also thinking about citywide versus district, that's another issue that we see quite a bit of difference in opinion put on that, amongst alders and so on and so forth. I would also say that resourcing I always think resourcing is a fascinating issue. It's not this, I'm going to put this caveat out there in my 7 years of experience. This is not an easy resourcing. Just do X, just do Y is not a thing. So I just want to put that out there for food for thought that like we can let's have these conversations, but we need to be, there's a lot that goes into these things. One thing that we've noticed over the years as well is that people want to talk to their alder. This town is a very interesting place. I don't know if this went into why the referendum came out the way that it did, but we have found that in our office, when people call, they want to talk to their alder. They are not as impressed or interested in talking to one of us or other staff. They want their alder. And I think there is a grassroots value here that also needs to be explicitly discussed in the mix, because I think that without discussing that, you may end up with referendum results that, again, we're sort of going around trying to figure out what to do. And I think that I just want to put that out there. That is not insignificant. It's a little different than at the state level, maybe because people understand that at the state level, the capital's here in Madison, but your district is up in Rhineland or in, what are you going to do? But I think that one of the things about local government in Madison, in my experience, is that people very much love that you're the neighbor, and that means something to them. So as we continue with these conversations, which I'm imagining we will for as long, as it's fine, it's great. I'm not trying to say any kind of negative thing. I'm just saying that there's a few things I want y'all to add to the conversation that I think will help us come up with solutions, or if not solutions, assistance. I don't know, things to make things a little bit more doable. So that's just a philosophical couple of cents. I appreciate you all very much.
And I'll just piggyback on that, because I think, Karen, you raised an excellent issue, which is, everybody has a different approach and a different perspective on kind of what their role is. But we have seen that there are people who do a really good job and people who don't. And it's not necessarily always reflected in who gets reelected. And so since we have a member of the press in the room, I'm going to ask the press that when you're interviewing candidates, that when you're asking them, what is it that they want to achieve, ask them about constituent services. I've never had that come up in any of my candidate interviews. And that is such a huge part, in my mind, of what we do and what people value from us, that I do think that we need the media to actually focus on that more than perhaps they do at the moment. Alder Uyghur, go ahead.
Thank you, President. And I just want to confirm and emphasize what you just said, which built upon some important comments from Chief of Staff. I think that my involvement in constituent services informs what I do on policy making. And without that face-to-face or voice-to-voice human contact, I would not know how to be as effective in contributing or developing policy. And even beyond the one-on-one opportunities, I'm sure most of us spend some time, reserve some time. We probably all have multiple neighborhood associations, homeowners associations, and again, a tremendous learning opportunity to stand before groups like that the people who attend those really care about the city tremendously. It's something I certainly appreciate, even when they disagree. Golly, perhaps just under 50% of my district would love to have it redistricted so they didn't have me to vote for again. But beyond that, I think it's really important that we have a number of constituents that allows us to have that kind of interaction to inform our policymaking. Thank you, President.
This has been a really great, robust discussion. Thank you all. Go ahead, Attorney Adams.
This might be getting a little bit far afield from the original question, but I think the discussion about what makes an ideal alder is useful and important, but we also have to remember we can't dictate to any alder what they spend their time on. They may want to do no constituent services, and maybe the voters like that. They're the ones that decided. So when you think about resources, you can train, suggest, recommend, but there's nothing, the only qualification we always say for getting elected in democracy is getting one more vote than the other person. It's not necessarily how good of a policymaker you are or constituent service person you are, so just something to keep in mind.
All right. Is there any further discussion on this topic? It sounds like our marching orders are get a little more information. We want an update on 311. We want to know how we can plan for growth, what examples there are from other cities, and really understand kind of what optimal resources might look like, and what maybe if this is optimal, what's middle of the road, that kind of thing. So that sounds like our next steps to bring back. All right. I'm going to close this item and give me a moment to get to the agenda, which I now can't find on all my screens. Here we go. Okay, council office updates, item 6. That's to you, Karen.
All right, so now for a less philosophical, perhaps. Maybe I can make this philosophical too. All right, so I've just got a couple of things. One, of course, I have an update about the CCB garage parking issues. I provide you with some updates. Please park in city spots only, even after hours. There's been a slight adjustment in the parking, which spots are council spots, but it's labeled. So you'll see it if you just stand in the third back spot and turn left, you'll see the new spot. Please use your yellow card if you park down there. That helps me identify who's supposed to be down there. Also, I've been letting the county know that we use the yellow cards to help them also identify who's supposed to be down there. If you do see somebody down there parked in one of the council spots without a yellow card, please send me a picture of the license plate, and I will then follow up with the county facilities, and we do a whole thing. And we're just working on it, trying to help people kind of understand where to park. But that also means that when y'all are parking down there, you do also have the obligation not to park in the county spots. So I just wanted to flag that, especially the after 4:30, which is different, I believe, from what was told in the past. Wilson Street is a wonderful option if you are able. So if you drive and you don't have a Wilson Street access card and you are comfortable walking that distance, let us know. We'll get you a card. I believe everybody, but just in case, because I don't think CCB Garage is a great first choice for folks unless they have concerns, like a mobility concern or carrying heavy things, etc. So I would recommend that. I wanted to let you know some things that we're doing. So got a couple of big deadlines coming up as April, approaches, which is great for winter, but not great for my schedule. Not great for my workload. So I I know some of you have been familiar with this. I'm working on the expense account policy updates in accordance with ordinance, state statute, help from Attorney Haas. I'm gonna have something finalized by the start of the new term to be able to roll out to everyone. And then as you all know, and maybe some of you aren't really worrying about it because you're not up for election this year. Congratulations. Preparations for alder offboarding and onboarding has really, we're in what I kind of consider the final stretch because, and because we're anticipating a very small number of new alders, which is a bit of a shift from the multiple terms of very large number of new alders. The things I structured for onboarding have to be revisited for a small number. So it's part of what I'm gonna be working on is thinking about how to make a very small plan that I have as well as my not so small plan so that as we go forward, and I'll of course keep you all updated and you'll see things on your calendars and you'll see emails and sorry for the emails, but that's the main way to tell you all something. So, and just some reminders for the outgoing alders. That only applies to a couple folks, but just wanted to flag for you some things. And I'm happy to talk if you have any questions about what I'm thinking or anything you need to know. Happy to answer. I just wanted to, those are the things, that's what I'm going to be spending my time on basically is those things, to get ready for a shift, even though most of you will still be here. Thank you.
Any questions for Karen? Alder Lankella, go ahead.
Thank you, Karen. Just a quick, talking about April, how's the accessibility updates coming? Or any updates on that one? Are we still meeting it or city can meet those or?
It's a really great question. IT is the lead on that, so I wouldn't, again, want to speak out of turn on that one. I think that actually flagging that is good because that's one of the things I have in the mix in my head of what I need to do with returning folks in addition to new folks is like trying to think of ways to help you think through what you need to do, right? So like as alders, what are your responsibilities vis-a-vis your blogs, et cetera? And so there will probably be some check-ins or training for the returning folks, not just the new folks. So the returning folks aren't completely, free to do what they please. Because I do think accessibility, that's one thing, and as we're working on documents and that sort of thing, mostly it's for staff, but there are some obligations that y'all will have as you push things out to the public directly on your blogs. This is the main thing. And there's a few other back-end things that we need to just let you know about. It involves your blog. Yeah. So yes, IT is the one to speak to how it's going citywide. They keep at it. We're getting trainings regularly. I have an ADA training tomorrow, I think. Just keeping on with that. They're creating more documentation about what to do. What are the expectations for staff? How do we make these documentations? We have meetings to talk about what to do about Legistar. That is Legistar vis-a-vis this question, accessibility. It's its own thing. So that's kind of its own sub-project of working through what is our obligation? How are we going to solve it? And again, IT is really driving this. So I'm trying to just, keep pitching in whatever they need and whatever they tell me, I try to help them. So it's a lot, but we're still going. But I appreciate that because I think it will require some training updates for you all and a little bit of maybe noticing some things as you're posting your blogs that you maybe didn't pay as much attention to before. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to move on to item 7, future agenda items. On the list is Alder onboarding materials describing process for new developments in the district, council meeting end times, and Alder committee appointments. And so we will assess what can go on the next CCEC, and that will be my last one as president. So
That reminds me, I'm sorry. May I?
Go ahead.
That reminds me, no pressure, President Vitiver. A tradition that we've had is at the last CCEC, the outgoing president provides a little bit of a highlights reel. Not literally a reel, but the highlights, in case that's something you'd like to
Thank you,
do as
Karen.
well.
We'll
Sorry.
prepare for that for the
but
next meeting.
I gotta say, I mean, we got lots of highlights. It's not like there's a dearth of things. But I have noticed that has been popular for the last at least 2 presidencies. So I would be remiss if I didn't suggest that.
Thank you. All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All right. Len Kelly was second. Yep. Anticipating no concerns about that, I'm assuming a unanimous vote in favor. We are adjourned.